So we're going to do this. What I have in my shop on my bench is probably the most flown airplane in my entire hangar. I fly this airplane constantly because I love to hate it. I love to try to make it do things that it really shouldn't be able to do. It's so easy to make it do things, and everybody that sees me fly it is like, you sure love that airplane. And it's true. I fly this airplane constantly. The OMP, Ohio Model Products Challenger. I have had this airplane for a minute. And as you can see, I have been doing a little modification, and that's not a bad thing. A while ago, I had put some of my wire wheels on the airplane just to, you know, make it look a little bit dumb, but also make it a conversation piece. Because it's 3D printed, people look at it and like, it just looks wrong on the airplane. Well, yeah, it's supposed to, so that you come talk to. Why'd you do that? Well, let me tell you, it's 3D print. Fun conversation starter, right? Because it's not scale, doesn't have to be, it's just something to fool around with. And that was great. And then I had a great club member say, hey, Josh, I don't need these dumb floats. Take them, do something with them. And I said, Tom, I got you covered. So my Challenger is the original 49-inch span. And it came as essentially a plug and play. Just had to add a receiver and a battery, and it has been unstoppable. I love this plane. And the only thing that I did originally to modify it was add some bigger wheels. Because my field has tons and tons of ruts, and the original wheels were just not pleasant to taxi around on or land or anything like that. So bigger wheels, which evolved into different wheels, and now we're trying floats. Now, there are some basic principles of putting floats on an airplane that I would like to go over. But before I do that, get into the nerdy stuff, I do want to give a big shout out to K&S Metals, K&S Precision Metals. Focus, there we go. Now, K&S Precision Metals, they have been around the block with this hobby. They supply so many cool products: brass, copper, music wire, steel wire, aluminum tube, airfoiled tube. I used some of the airfoiled tube on the Transavia air truck, some on the CB. I've used it on a number of planes over the years. It's really great stuff to have around. And what's great about them also is they're typically stocked in my local hobby shop. I try to use my local hobby shop whenever I can because I like to support them, even though it's a big box store. I know people have their various feelings on that, but anyway, they're local guys, they're good people, and I just try to support them whenever I can. So with that, I just took these floats and I said, you know, these are honestly about the right size for the Challenger, and how fun would it be to try to use the Challenger off of water. Now, I don't have a place to fly off of water around me, but I do have a place where I can taxi. I think I have an idea. All right, guys, so I wanted to be crystal clear on this clip here. So this is a local pond down the street from where I live. And I want to be just completely transparent. In front, there are businesses on the other side of the pond, and to the right there, that is housing. And then all back along behind me, that is all housing as well. There are tons of houses here, not safe to fly. To the left, there is private property, and with the addition of wildlife here, there are a lot of migrating geese that camp out here, and there are turtles, there are ducks. There's way too many natural things that go on here that this is okay for a test. I'm not going to come here on a regular basis to putt my airplane around on the water. So I want to be crystal clear. This is just for testing purposes, to see how it goes around, make sure that things are working, that nothing's going to break, that things are waterproof where they need to be. And on this, I actually did discover that I really should do Corrosion X on the inside of all of my servos. So the aileron servos being on the bottom, they got splashed. Both the tail servos, the rudder and the elevator, those got splashed as well. So it was a good thing that I was able to do this test.
Yeah.
All right, so getting back to some of the technical things with the setup. This is the float set from an E-Flite Turbo Timber. So I checked, you can pick up a set of these floats for like 40 bucks. Not bad. I did end up bending some wire using one of the totally awesome wire bending kits, the Easy Bender from Dubro. If you haven't picked one of these up, you need to. I've been killing myself trying to bend wire over the years, and it has been a thorn in my side to heat up wire and bend it on the vise. I'm so glad I got one of these. Do yourself a favor and buy one, and buy the extra dies that you need. I've got all 4 of the dies in this box now, so I have everything I need. And you can set it up using this, or using the bench vise. So 6 of 1. There's a tutorial on how to use it on Dubro's website. Get one. All right, so with that, I bent wire that I needed. I used, see, it's like just about 2 centimeters here. It's like 1.5 going down into this molded piece of plastic, and this is 12 centimeters, this length that I used. And then obviously across the fuselage, and then another 12. It's mirror cup, just, it doesn't matter. And then the stock struts I ran up and just affixed into the fuselage. And then the rear, I just did the exact same thing on the front and bent things a little bit differently to match the angle that I needed. So yeah, from there I realized that I couldn't use the default string things that they have with this set of floats, because my rudder's kind of blocking that situation. Even trying to affix something to the tail wheel was going to be problematic. So I just said, forget it. I'm going to eat the weight, because this airplane just goes like stink anyway. I'm not too worried about the weight of these things. Because when you're flying off of water, it's all about like trying to do the touch and goes perfectly, right? It's all about the look and trying to fly smooth. So that's why I went ahead and just decided to put some random crap servos I had laying in my drawer. Have no idea how old they are, but they work. I servo tested them and they work just fine. Cut holes for it in the pontoons. They're hollow on the inside, so that was not an issue. I fixed them with hot glue. Yeah, hot glue. Hot glue is waterproof, and it binds to foam and plastic. Why complicate this situation? So hot glued in there, ran the wire up, and just used some shrink tube to go up the strut. There's a little bit of a gap in the wing because of that servo wire. Not a huge deal. And then took some more Dubro hardware. I've got some easy quick links here to lock everything in position. These are the 440 ones. I didn't know how much force to expect on these water rudders, and I wanted to make sure that there was like a very little flex. I tried to keep these a little bit forward. So, I put them here instead of here. So I really didn't want these to flex much. That's why I used the 440 push rods. Again, using the Easy Bender, put a nice Z-bend right there, exactly where I wanted. Got some adjustability here, and I got it on both sides. Setting it up was a snap because it's just a Y harness. Plug it into an open channel. I've got an 8-channel receiver on this anyway, so now I'm using 6 channels. For those who don't know, my Challenger is set up with 2 separate aileron channels because I have flaperons programmed in. I love the flaperon feature on this model. Really doesn't have any really bad habits with flaperons. I'll just say that when you have the flaperons all the way, it can be a little bit tricky to control in higher speeds, so be on that rudder if you do it. From there, I needed to add some weight, so I've got some stick-on tire weights here that I needed to get the center of gravity right again, because again, we've got more weight in the back. So I've got the wings taken off here. I want to go over some of the hardware that I used to get this setup working. I think some of the specifics need to be covered here. So with the linkage between the servo, after the servo was glued in place, I'm just using some shrink tube here to the strut that comes in the float set. Just some basic fasteners here. I have a rubber bonded washer up here from RTL Fasteners. But the servo connection, I'm using the Dubro. These are 440 size, but here's a package of the Safety Lock Quick Links, just for reference. These are nice because it's got this lock that keeps the pin in place, so they're not going to slide out, but there's some adjustability there. And then a 440 push rod from Dubro as well. Really nice. A quick Z-bend here, and that's really it. I did remove the spring that comes with this. There's a spring here that and a pull line that's supposed to go to a rudder, but yeah, eliminated that. That's all the hardware right here. The other main pieces of hardware are just the actual struts that connect to the fuselage. This is just music wire from K&S Precision Metals. Here's the leftover wrapper from it. It's stock 506 music wire, 3/32. And that's all I used. The music wire is nice because it gives a little bit of spring to it. But you know, now that things are pretty much set, I can remove all of this stuff and put a coat of paint on it so that it doesn't rust. All right, and then moving to the underside of the fuselage, I wanted to point out that I've got some of these landing gear straps from Dubro. This made really quick work of the installation. There's a main ply mount here that I used just because I knew it was a solid surface anyway. Oh, hello, Mr. Ant. And then just had something to screw to. Again, you pre-drill these holes and then put a screw in it, pull the screw out, put a drop of CA glue to harden up the hole so it doesn't strip out. And then for reference here on the back of the fuselage, I found another former that was roughly in the right location for this, and did the same thing here with the landing gear straps. I do have a little piece of plastic tubing that I use just because I use little scraps of leftover music wire for both the front and the back. I could have used a single piece to bend these, but I was just using up scraps left over in the shop. And here's some additional detail of the RTL bonded washers and screws here. Let's go over some of the basic principles that you need to add floats to an airplane. Okay, so I'm gonna give you this sort of vantage point here because this is sort of the view that you want to take when evaluating floats for an airplane, and there are just some basic things like sizing. So you want the floats to be roughly 75% of the length of the fuselage. So take the length of the fuselage from here to there, about 75, and these are about 75%-ish percent. All right, so that's step one. The next thing that you want to try to figure out ish is so the front of the floats need to extend past the front of the propeller. That helps prevent like nosing over with the thrust as it goes. Okay, so there's that, but also you want the step of the floats to be somewhere around the CG mark, which mine are. It's a little bit behind, but that's okay. There's some wiggle room there. You want to just get that pretty close. And honestly, being behind the CG is better than being in front, from what I've read. The other thing that's ideal in terms of the flipping over is to have about 2 inches of extension. Obviously, if you have a bigger airplane, 2 inches is going to be like really small. Again, relative sizing here. You want to make sure that you have something sticking out past the prop line. That's what I'm saying. Now, my prop does come pretty close to hitting the fuselage, but it's a solid 2 fingers from getting there. So I am not afraid of a prop strike. Maybe a little bit of prop in the water if I'm getting too nose forward. The last thing that I want to touch on is the angle. So the angle of the float in relation to the angle of the airplane. So the airplane flies with something that's called a datum. Okay, it's a line that you draw through the airplane, and it's different than like the thrust line. So sometimes an airplane's thrust will be down or up. You'll even have side to side. Most of our airplanes have a little bit of right thrust to counter the torque from our electric motors, or even the glow engines too. But really what you're mostly concerned about is the angle of attack of your wing. In our case, we have a semi-symmetrical wing, so we kind of want to look at our datum here. So our midpoint here and the very leading edge of the wing. So if you have a completely symmetrical airfoil, you want to obviously use that same line. But if you have a flat bottom wing, you kind of want to reference the very bottom of the wing and not necessarily that midpoint line. So after you evaluate that line, you want to get the floats to be level with that line or your datum. However, the airplane is going to fly straight. You can put in a little bit of positive, like nose up in relation, and that's what I have done. And that is to help you with takeoff and landing. So in this configuration, it's a little bit of drag while flying because the pontoons are gonna, or the floats rather, they're gonna be, angled down. And so you have a little bit more frontal area on the wind as it goes. But the ease of taking off and getting on step and having the added lift of the higher angle attack on the wing while on the water is something that's favorable. So the way that I determined this angle was, number one, I created the front mounting point. I just created that bend in the wire, put it in, and I'm like, yeah, the prop clears. It's kind of in the right place. We'll see what position I can get this stuff into, and maybe I can move it forward. Maybe I can move this aft. I don't know. Let's take a look. And so then after I did some basic measurements. I figured, well, if this isn't going to line up and I have the exact same measurement, this is going to go down a little bit anyway. Not to mention there's a taper in the fuselage, so that's going to go down and help me as well with that positive angle. So that's why I just replicated the strut on the back, same as I did on the front. And I think it's working out. Obviously, I've got to flight test this and see if it works out. But the general principles are there, and it should be okay. It may not be perfect, and I can obviously refine it, but it should be flyable. Now, as I said before, this airplane has gobs of power for how light it is. If you've never flown one of these planes or held one, they're extremely light balsa airplanes, very, very light. There's a carbon fiber spar. I mean, this airplane has taken a beating from me, but it just keeps on ticking. But it'll go straight vertical for days. I usually fly with a 4,000 milliamp hour 3-cell pack, and I get at least 9-10 minutes of flying time out of it, and that's like doing stupid stuff like full full throttle racing around and slow stuff and trying to hover and doing all sorts of crazy stupid stuff. And it's fine. So I just use that to drive home that you do need a little bit more power. So if you've purchased a version of the Challenger that doesn't come with the recommended motor, ESC, whatever, you might want to make sure that you have enough power to fly the airplane with the added drag, obviously, of the floats. The other thing that I think I'm going to consider for this airplane is the new ZTW Beetles ESCs. They have a new generation out that has prop reversing. So if you get stuck on the water, or you don't know how to drive yet on the water, you can just flip a switch, and obviously I've got 2 additional channels I can plug that into, reverse the prop, and try to back up a little bit too. Kind of a neat thing that ZTW, while they already make fantastic speed controllers, they're always doing new stuff, and I'm really looking forward. I actually have one of these that I've tried on another airplane, and I've got a review coming on that as well. But hats off to ZTW for making just absolutely phenomenal stuff.
Okay. Is it red? Yes.
All right, you get the voiceover once again. Takeoff. Yeah, effortless. Absolutely effortless. I came out to the field because it was a nice dewy morning and I wanted to try the floats just because I knew it was going to be a little slick. I took off with high rates, really didn't need them. I used the stock recommended rates on my model from Ohio Model Products, and most of the time I'm flying on low rates, and low rates would have been just fine. But as you can see, it just goes, it goes like stink. Still has unlimited vertical, not as fast, but still will go as high as you want. Maneuverability is just as precise. It does all the silly things, highly predictable, and I just can't fault this airplane. I can't fault it with the floats either. It behaves very well, and the recommendations that I've given in this video hopefully will help some of you guys to add floats to your model, whether it's the Challenger or some other fixed wing model. It's just a fun aspect to the hobby. I'm looking forward to having snow this winter. I always look forward to snow, and anything's better than last year's 0.2 inches of snow. I'm telling you, I'm really looking forward to having some fun in the winter. So enjoy the rest of the flight, and thanks for watching today.
Very nice.
So that's it, guys, on the Challenger for now. I wanted to share that with you, and all I can say is that you have to just try new things. I don't have a place to fly off of water, but with these floats I can try flying off of snow. Now I do have an affiliate link for BuddyRC, and I'll send you guys direct links for the Challenger that comes in 49 and 59 inch wingspans. Really fun airplane. I love this airplane, and if you can find one in stock, go grab one. You're not going to regret it. Guarantee it'd be the best $200 you spend. You have my word on that. So until next time, guys, keep modifying your flying works of art.